This episode is sponsored by Arbalos Films. Arbalos Films specializes in releasing new 4K restorations of canon-expanding and critically celebrated art house cinema,
including the film for today's episode, Béla Tarr's Sátántangó. Arbalos releases are available across art house streaming platforms. You can see them at your local cinematheque, museums, film festivals.
Special limited edition Blu-rays available exclusively through the Arbalos online store. Use promo code SEENHEARD for 15% off your order.
The link to the Arbalos online shop is in the show notes. And you thought your hometown was depressing? This is Sátántangó.
Hey everybody, welcome to Seen and Heard.
Hello.
This is the podcast where two entertainment assistants who are doing no entertaining because of the ongoing strikes for fighting for a better quality of life from the megalith evil Hollywood studios.
Yeah.
This is the show where we go through the Sight and Sound top 100 greatest films of all time list. I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we're back this week for a big one. To say the least.
A mega one.
I was going to say this is the longest movie we've done, but I think Showa was longer.
But Showa is so different. I like the fact that Showa aired on PBS and they split it up the way they did. Like it might be bad, but I truly see Showa as like a mini series.
I mean, I kind of do too, but I mean, it's just looking at how they the original theatrical exhibition for Showa and Sátántangó was all at once. Like you get intermissions or whatever, but anyway. So yeah, we're here to talk about Sátántangó, brought to us by Arbalos Films, our sponsor for the last 5 episodes. If you guys don't know Arbalos Films, they're so incredible. They're a Blu-ray, kind of a boutique Blu-ray company, and also, distributor, and they're incredible. I have discovered a number of some of my honestly favorite movies through Arbalos. I'll name 2 of them right now. One of them, I think most prominently, Son of the White Mare. It's a Hungarian animated film from the 80s by Marcel Jankovics, which I didn't know about, hadn't heard about. Arbalos released it. I'm a huge sucker for just like world animation. And it blew my mind. It is a masterpiece.
Wow.
So that's one I discovered through them. And then another one, I think it's one of their earliest releases, was a Dennis Hopper movie called The Last Movie. It was Dennis Hopper's directorial follow-up to Easy Rider. And it was kind of one of those movies that got out of control and kind of like went over budget. And I think, again, back in the day, you'd get a lot of bad press that would come out. And so people already didn't like the movie before it came out. But it's like a very radical, crazy movie about Dennis Hopper is in the film too, and he plays like a stuntman that's part of I think they're shooting a Western in Peru, if I remember correctly. They're shooting a Western and the film crew shuts down and goes home, but he like stays, and the locals start to think of him as this like movie star. It's just like it's really great. It's a really smart movie. He's a stuntman, yeah. And
that's so cool.
It's really, really good. So yeah, so much of that they've released is incredible, but those 2 especially. Oh, and then also, of course, the Nina Menke set, Cinematic Sorcerer. Again, had not heard of her, bought it, because when you start to trust these Blu-ray labels, they become like curators, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you're putting your seal on this, I'll check it out. And I got the Nina Menke set, and I watched Queen of Hearts, and was so bowled over by it. So yeah, I cannot recommend them higher enough. They're incredible. So if you haven't checked out Arbalos, if you aren't in the Arbalos club yet, get in the club.
I have to get in the club.
You do. Damn it, Jackie. But anyway, before we get into this week's magnum opus, and again, yes, Arbalos does have a Blu-ray of Sátántangó. I believe we're saying that right. We're going to stick to our guns and say Sátántangó, although it's literally spelled Satan Tango, and that's the actual translation too. But we will say Sátántangó because we're trying to be fancy.
Look, the accents are there for a reason.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Good point. There are accents. So, but anyway, before we get into the Béla Tarr film, Jackie, what have you been watching this last week?
This for 2 days. I also saw Bottoms, the film by Emma Seligman.
I wanted to see that.
It's fun. It's really fun. If you miss seeing teen movies in the theater, go see it. It's like it kind of puts them through the ringer. It's a satire of teen movies, but also a teen movie in and of itself. Like, it's clear there's a lot of love there for the genre, but yeah, it's just super fun. Highly recommend. I finally saw Red Desert.
Antonioni
movie, yeah.
It's incredible, right?
You know, I'm like still digesting it, and it's been like 4 days. It's a lot.
It is. It's a full course meal.
But it was cool seeing Monica Vitti in color.
Yeah.
I did really like it, but I'm just like, I almost forget I saw it because it was like, it's such a dream that and
Sátántangó happened.
It. Yeah, exactly. So I did that. I saw Color of Pomegranates at Vidiot's. First time going to Vidiot's, their screening room, which was really fun. Although I must say, I split up Sátántangó in 2 days. So I watched until the first intermission, but then I had tickets to this Color of Pomegranate screening, so I had to go see Color of Pomegranates. And then the next day I watched the rest of Sátántangó. So Color of Palms was sandwiched between this mega movie, both extremely thoughtful and hard watch it, like not easy to digest watches. Put that on top of the Red Desert, also hard to digest. I've been having digestive issues apparently with my film watching, but the big one for me, the one that was a soothing balm for all that's going on in all these hard to watch movies, was Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. Oh. I had never seen it.
Oh, really?
What a treat.
Yeah, right? It's so good.
It's so good. I loved it. It's so funny. It's like perfectly crafted. It's kind of a perfect movie. Like, I was thinking about it after. And I just miss like good slapstick like that. Who makes modern slapstick?
Slapstick is not in right now. It's sad.
I know.
Some of my favorite
not that the
movies
movie
are
is modern.
slapstick.
It came out in the 80s, but still, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So very grateful for that movie.
Yeah.
What have you been watching?
Actually, not that much. Mystery Train, the Jim Jarmusch film, which I've seen many times before, but like we did it for the film club the week prior. And it was our last like non-horror movie before our like Halloween marathon, which we started. We're doing all September, all October. But yeah, Mystery Train. God, what a movie. I just like those early Jarmusch films, like the 80s and 90s Jarmusch, like good Lord.
I haven't seen it. What's it called?
Mystery Train.
I was going to say Midnight Train.
No, it's a movie. It's not like an Alan Parker movie, or no, Midnight Express. But no, it's 3 vignettes, 3 different stories of people wandering. These kind of nocturnal stories of people wandering around Memphis. And
nice.
Somehow, sort of the spirit of Elvis kind of connects all of them. But the movie, anyway, you got to see it. It's great.
Oh yeah, it's on my list.
And then, yeah, this movie took up a lot of my week. And then I rewatched Ed Wood because I was just clamoring.
I haven't seen it in so long.
It's goddamn. Every time I see that movie, like I like it even more. Like it's kind of perfect. It is kind of perfect. It is the perfect balance of comedy and drama. Mm-hmm. It's poking fun at its characters while still has like a really loving touch. Mm-hmm. And the movie does not take cheap ways out. Like they don't make cheap laughs out of him being a transvestite and like the Bill Murray sex change stuff. I mean, there's some jokes, but like the movie, for a movie from like 1994, like is respectful and poignant. And of course, Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi, which he won the Oscar for. That movie is so fucking good. I think it's one of the best movies about filmmaking ever. And I just can't see that movie enough times. Every time I see that movie, I get really excited to watch it. Like, ooh, it's been like 2 years since I've seen Ed Wood. And then it just so delivers. And like, I'm watching it and I'm just like in heaven watching it.
Wow.
It's so good.
I have to revisit.
It just gets better and better.
I'm excited.
So that was my week. But we should take this time to just reiterate that we are on the precipice here of a break. So you and I are taking a break from Seen and Heard. as we do annually. Last year we took November off. This year's a little different. We're taking the rest of this month off, September. So this is going to be our last episode for a while. We're going to take a little break here because you and I need a break. We need a break.
Speak for yourself.
Yes. So, I mean, we love doing this show, but every show needs a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're taking that break. Previously, we said we'd be back mid-October. We're going to kind of play that by ear just because you and I really separately kind of need to like decompress, and we have other stuff we're working on and creative projects and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we're going to try to come back in a month, maybe two. So yeah, we'll see. You know, we'll keep people abreast via social media.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. If you guys don't follow us on Instagram, by the way, please follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
We want to connect with you guys. We are just at Seen and Heard Pod, right?
That's it. And you just, if people were following us already, they would have seen all of your great Sátántangó stories.
I tracked
your
my
Insta
progress.
stories of you watching this movie, the different stages.
I'm wearing a different shirt on like on the second part. Well, it was different days, but
It's great because you sent it to me and you were just like, you had a thumb up in front of a TV screen, and I was laughing so hard.
Because I told you to do the same.
I know, I dropped the ball.
And then you were like, why did you take it in front of the TV? And I was like, you have to. What do you mean? What was I going to do on the couch? How boring.
No, it's perfect. You went that extra mile. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I had to literally go kneel down in front of my TV. And then I realized when I did the first one, the cows weren't in it. But it was supposed to mark the beginning of the movie. It was literally a part where the camera panned behind the wall.
There's a wall, yeah.
But I didn't even realize.
It's okay. It was still a great story. So yeah, follow us on there if you don't. If you are one of our patrons, we are going to pause those. We're going to pause Patreon just during our break because I feel weird about keeping it going. So that's going to be paused, but we're coming back.
Yeah, we are coming back.
We just take a break.
We promise.
We take an annual break, and it's happening now. We were going to try to make it till November, but we just have so much going on without getting too into the weeds on this. Like, we both have a lot going on. This was sort of the time to do it. So this is our annual break. We're coming back. But you can miss us a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe miss us, and we have this glorious backlog of 86, 87 episodes or something like that.
We just had our 80th. I'm not counting the Patreon ones.
Oh, the s'mores episodes?
I'm not counting the s'mores. But there is a backlog of s'mores episodes as well if you want to sign up for Patreon. I just mean for our actual show, this will be our 81st, I believe. So you have 81 episodes.
Yeah.
And then if you want to become a patron, you'll have more.
You'll have more. You can unlock our s'mores series. Well, anyway, should we just get into this week's film?
I'm so scared. I'm really scared.
From 1994, this is Béla Tarr's Sátántangó.
Sátántangó was released in 1994. It was directed by Béla Tarr, co-written by Tarr and Laszlo Krasznahorkai, based on his novel of the same name. Cinematography by Gabor Medvigi, music by Mihai Vig. Sátántangó tells the story of a small group of people whose livelihood is a communal farm in a desolate village in Hungary after the fall of communism. On the day each individual is going to get paid for their year's worth of work, Futaki awakes to the sound of bells, even though an unknown narrator informs us there are no bells anywhere near the village. Futaki and two other villagers, Schmidt and Kraner, plan to steal the whole share of the money and run away. Their plan is soiled with the news of the return of the mysterious Irimias and his partner Petrina, who were presumed dead. Irimias is the unknowable leader of the community who faked his death and has been conspiring with the authorities for unknown purposes. On their way back to town, Petrina and Irimias stop in a bar, and Irimias is disturbed by a loud, inexplainable noise, after which he threatens to blow everything up. Meanwhile, the town doctor sits at home all day drinking and writing about each of the community members. When he runs out of brandy, he is forced to leave the house in the horrible rain. Ultimately, he never makes it to the bar to refill his supply. He runs into a little girl, Estik, whom he scolds and then follows into the woods, where he collapses and is taken to the hospital the next day. Meanwhile, inside the bar, the townsfolk become belligerently drunk, awaiting the arrival of Irimias. Earlier that day, Estik accompanies her brother to bury a sum of money. He tells her that they are planting a money tree and soon they will be rich. She then proceeds to torture her cat, eventually poisoning it. When she goes to bury the cat, she notices the money has been removed from the ground. Her brother tells her plainly that he needed it, and he made up the story about the money tree. After staring at the drinkers inside the bar and pleading to the doctor in vain, she kills herself with the remaining rat poison. The next morning, Irimias has arrived. He says that he has a new prospect for them. They will collectively farm a nearby estate, but in order to do so, they must surrender all their earnings to him. They leave town for the estate, but forget about the doctor. Irimias meets up with a gun dealer to purchase a large amount of explosives. On his way to the manor, he falls to his knees before an expansion of fog at the ruins where Estik killed herself. When he shows up at the estate, the villagers are doubtful, and he tells them their plans will have to wait until the authorities approve them. He then sends each of them off to a different town where various jobs are awaiting them. A few government clerks type up a report that Irimias made on the villagers, softening his rough and critical language a bit. Finally, the doctor returns from the hospital after 2 weeks and doesn't even know the villagers are gone. He begins to hear the mysterious bell from the start of the movie and sets out to find its source, only to discover a madman in a tower banging a rod. He returns home and boards up his windows, completely darkening his room, and begins to write down the narration that opens the film. 7-hour movie. I mean, I
Seven
know
and a half.
Yeah, it's not like a lot of plot, but I just thought those were like the most important things.
You know what, Jackie? You have done your best work yet.
Thank you so much.
Because I would have been so afraid to summarize this movie, and you really nailed it down. Well, that was it.
I just tried to hit the things I think we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like come out of nowhere, you know? The film stars Mihai Vig as Irimias. He is also the composer of the film, but we'll talk about that. Puti Horvath as the doctor, Laszlo Felugosi as Schmidt, Eva Almasi Albert as Mrs. Schmidt, and Miklos Shekli B as Futaki. So yes, Mihai Vig is Tarr's musical collaborator since 1984, and their first film together was Almanac of Fall, and their collaboration lasted until 2011, when Tarr retired. He also frequently collaborated with the author of the book, Laszlo Krasznahorkai. Tarr first read Sátántangó as a manuscript in 1985, and he knew he wanted to adapt it, but he would have to wait 10 years due to the communist government's oppression. In the meantime, he had Krasznahorkai write the story for the film Damnation, which he made in 1988. The government fell, and Béla Tarr said, let's do Sátántangó 10 years after he originally wanted to. Since then, he has adapted Krasznahorkai's book, Werkmeister Harmonies, in 2000. Krasznahorkai also wrote the screenplay for The Man from London in 2007 and The Turin Horse, which was Tarr's last film in 2011. So he's really a man of collaboration. Like he always said, it's always been like him, the writer, the composer, and his wife, who's his editor. So, his longtime editor and wife, Agnes Ranitsky, was the editor of this film, and she has edited all his films. So, yeah, he's really a collaborator. The film was shot in 120 days in a place called Hortobágy, which is part of the Great Plains of Hungary. It's very isolated. Apparently, Béla Tarr doesn't use scripts while shooting. Or storyboards, which sounds like my nightmare, but I don't know. The cat scene. So, Béla Tarr has stated that the cat was not harmed. He personally had 2 cats at home when he made this movie, and he called his own veterinarian to be on set for the scenes with the cat. He had the vet give the cat the sleeping shot that makes him kind of fall asleep in the milk. They rehearsed the tossing around for weeks in the hotel room before they actually had to shoot it. And the sounds were added. It was not the cat's real sounds. He was not crying out. So that made me feel a little better. You don't agree? I can't wait to talk. The film has 172 shots for 7.5 hours. It is divided into 12 chapters, all 12 chapters that appear in the book under the same name.
In the same order, too, right?
Yeah. The film played at the Berlin Film Festival in 1994, where it won the Caligari Film Award. It was briefly released on VHS and DVD in the 90s, but went out of print very quickly, leading to many bootlegs being made. Thanks to our friends at Arbelos Films, though, the film was released on Blu-ray in 2021 with a new director-approved transfer.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah.
It looks beautiful, too.
It does. The film is meant to be seen in one sitting, but there are 2 intermissions.
Yeah, so it's cut into 3 segments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, too, the tango is in the order of the chapters or something, like 6 steps forward, 6 steps back or something like that. Yeah.
Right. But that's interesting because I thought about this too. 6 steps forward, 6 steps back. So the first 6 are like until the little girl kills herself.
Okay.
Or the one right after, which is the drunken scene in the bar. That's the first 6. Like that day and night, essentially. That's one day and night, right?
Right.
And then the rest of the movie. But then 6 steps forward, 6 steps back. Don't you think the 6 steps back would be the all in one day in different perspectives?
You would think so.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I was thinking about that.
I didn't think about it too hard. Because you tango all the time.
All the time. Every Thursday night.
Actually, if anyone's listening and is interested, Jackie teaches a tango class in Glendale.
People are gonna think this is real. Yeah.
You're very. Some would say you're very passionate about the tango.
Listen, I wish. Tango sounds so fun.
Looks hard. Yeah. Yeah, I had some. I think you covered every. Oh, so yeah, he shot. The only other spec I have is that it adapts every moment from the book, literally leaving nothing out. So this is maybe the only cinematic adaptation that faithfully adapts a book. Like
this is technically true. However, I have something that's in the book that's not in the movie. But it's like the plot point happens, but it is not as described in the book. Do you want me to tell you now?
Yeah, tell me. No, I just want to hear. Yeah.
Okay. And it's really interesting.
Okay.
So the scene where Jeremias is kneeling, it's during the chapter of hallucination or heavenly vision, right? That's what it's called, the chapter. He falls to his knees right there where the little girl killed herself. And there's this fog. And he falls to his knees like he's seeing a vision. But in the book, you actually see the vision. It is, her name's Estique. It is Estique's body rising to heaven. I swear to God.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I could see that would have been too much in the movie, I think.
So we'll talk about it. Because I think it's so interesting.
Yeah. So that's the only change from the book.
I mean, there might be more, but that was one that I didn't go looking for differences. That one came up and I was like, wait, I thought it adapted every single thing. So I think it must adapt every single plot point, but like something like that, for example.
They change a few things here and there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't leave anything out. Right.
Right. So apparently, yeah, her body like ascends and then descends and then ascends again. But they all see it, not just him.
Wow.
So in the movie, technically, that's probably what he's seeing,
yeah.
but we just don't see it.
Right. The magic of movie making.
I know.
Again, it's a subtler art form.
Well, we'll talk.
Yeah. I think you can be more explicit in a book.
What are your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts on a 7.5 hour film. Okay.
Hard, right?
This is tough because this is my first Béla Tarr.
Me too.
I have not seen one. You mentioned last episode, you brought this up, that one of the first, I don't want to say one of the first conversations we had, but I feel like
yeah, I forgot
Yeah. Well, you and I first started working together at a production company just early on. I think it was, wait, I'm trying to like the timeline. When did you work there? Because it was like Halloween time.
Yeah, I started working there in the summer and I worked there until November.
Oh, okay. So it was, I had already known you for a few months. But yeah, I was I going to go to this with it? No, I wasn't. I saw this was playing. The American Cinematheque was playing this, I believe, at the Egyptian before the Egyptian closed and like Netflix bought it and gutted it or whatever they did to it. This was playing and I was like, cool. The only way I'm going to see this movie is in a theater because like at home, I just don't know if I'd have the discipline to sit down and watch it. So like I bought a ticket, just one ticket for myself. Or you know what? Maybe I bought two. I honestly don't remember. But like I was like, I'm going. And then I told you about it.
Uh-huh.
We were at work. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see this 7.5 hour movie. You're like, what? And then I was fully intending on going, although I was also trying to rope someone into it with me. I'm pretty sure I asked you.
You were trying to rope me.
I tried to rope you. I tried to rope some other people we worked with. No one wanted to go, which is understandable.
You told me that there was a sequence in there of 10 minutes of looking at a goat. And so the whole time I was waiting for this goat and the goat to not appear.
I just made that up because it's like slow cinema.
Yeah.
Because I assumed there was, a shot like that. So I did not end up going to see it. Even though I had a ticket to it, I did not go because this was the weekend before Halloween of, I believe this is the Halloween of 2019. Was that when you were there?
Yes.
Okay. And I got invited to a haunted house that same day. And so here's what happened, Jackie. This is a tragedy. I didn't go to Sátántangó at the Egyptian Theater.
I remember.
I went and did some haunted house stuff with our friend James instead. And it was a really hard decision to make because I knew this was going to be like a singular experience to have in the theater. But I'm such a Halloween boy. I just had to do it. So sitting down with this week felt like coming full circle from 4 years ago. In fact, we're almost at that time of year when I was supposed to see this 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I watched this in 2 sittings. I was going to do it in one, but life happens, life happens. And I think, according to your Insta stories, I think we did the same thing. I watched up till the first intermission one day, and then the whole rest of it the second day. Is that what you did? Okay. We did the same thing. I initially thought about even doing it over 3 days because there's 2 intermissions that break up 3 big segments. But I was like, that seems excessive. And I'm glad look, I kind of feel guilty about it. I kind of feel guilty because I'm a purist about seeing movies as they're originally intended, as the director wanted you to see them.
But you didn't watch Showa in one day.
I know, but I think Showa was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
I know.
Whereas like this was not as overwhelming. So yeah, I sat down with this as you only can with a 7.5 hour movie ahead of you, being like, okay.
Literally.
It was kind of the brunt of a joke, like some jokes with my friends. They were like, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, I'm watching a 7.5 hour Hungarian depressing black and white movie about a depressing village. And people just start laughing. Like, of course, Greg, that's what you're watching. Yeah. Of course. Okay, so when all is said and done, what do I think of Sátántangó? I think it's pretty great. I, of course, have a problem with the cat scene. I think the cat scene is egregious and lazy and cheap. And I do not buy Béla Tarr's explanation for the scene. I did pull the quote here, but you basically just summarized it. Like, him saying they rehearsed with the cat on a bed means to me that they just subjected this cat to more torture. Because this cat's being flung around by its arms. You look at a scene like that, and I genuinely wonder how this cat was okay. And clearly, you can tell. I have 2 cats of my own. I love cats. I'm a dog person too, but I especially love cats. And the way its ears are back, and it's just the cat's not having a good time. I don't care what the fuck he says. That cat is not having a good time. Beyond not having a good time, the cat seemed to have endured some possible serious injury. Like, she's rolling around with the cat on concrete, kind of slamming its body on the fucking concrete. So I'm not okay with that. I don't mind implied animal cruelty in movies. Like, I just saw Gummo a few months ago or whatever, and that's all implied. It's like these kids shoot cats in the movie. I don't care. Like, I can bear it in a movie if it's fake. But if it's real, yes, I'm invested and I'm pissed off. And I do think even if it was in the book, that whole sequence was a lazy way to show the nihilism of the movie, right? Of like this girl being corrupted, or this girl's boredom, or this girl's like nihilism of like the power she exerts over this cat. Anyway, cat scene aside, because I don't want to dwell on it too long, but I do think it's cheap, and I don't think that cat was like totally okay afterwards. I think it's a pretty fucking great movie, and it kind of subverted my expectations because, like you said, I think I expected this movie to be like 10 shots of just goats. And I specifically didn't read anything about this movie beforehand. I didn't know the plot. I didn't know the basic gist. I just knew farmers, and that's all I knew.
Farmers in Hungary and black and white.
Exactly. Yeah. Depressing. And I was really surprised how engaging the movie was because again, I'm gearing up for something that is like a snail's pace.
You told me that.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, it felt literary. Before I knew it was based on a book, I was like, oh, this feels like a book. Obviously, that's the chapter thing, like, right?
Yeah.
But in the way that like you're with someone for a while, you think the movie's about them, and then you're with someone else, and you're seeing the same incident from a different perspective, and then you go with someone else. And it's like the way that it would jump around like that, obviously super literary, but just like one thing that really struck me about this movie was just how engrossing it was. And I actually want to read Arbelos in their like synopsis of the movie. They call it enthralling, and they say it's transfixing and uncompromising. And I agree, it's so transfixing. Like it really is. It's almost like meditative.
Oh yeah.
The way that I got into this movie. And I think the pace at which the movie is told, which is so much breathing room, and you get to just like every single character you get to sit and live with. Truly. Like a lot of movies say
they do that, but like this one is like, oh no, you are going to watch them for 10 minutes.
Yes. In a Chantal Akerman, honestly, not so far from like what Chantal Akerman did.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I didn't know where this was going. This like, I think it starts and you get immediately echoes of Tarkovsky. You're like, okay, Tarkovsky, like I kind of know what territory I'm in. But then the movie would kind of change it up on you. And I'm like, oh, Tarkovsky never did this. He never did that. And you're like, oh, Béla Tarr is his own filmmaker. So, big surprise. But yeah, I mean, like it just told such a rich, full meal story. And I was engaged. Like, the intermissions would hit and I'd be like, I genuinely want to see what happens next. So like that was the most surprising thing for the movie. So I'm wrapping up here on initial thoughts, but yeah, I mean, big surprise. This movie that everybody loves, I thought was great. I for a while I was like, am I going to put this on my top 4 on Letterboxd? I didn't, but
you considered after you finished watching it?
No, like during.
Oh,
that's meaningless, but
that's a big deal.
Well, it was like really working for me. I mean, this was an incredible experience. Wow. I really liked it. How about you?
I really want to see it in a theater.
Yeah,
really bad. So it's hard. I think it's hard to define initial thoughts for a movie you live with.
Yes.
So long. Like this was my life for the past 2 days. So like, where do my initial thoughts begin? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to, this is all I've known. So how can I have initial thoughts of all I've known? Immediately taken by the cows. I'm not kidding. And I know we joked about goats. So that was at the point of the movie where I still thought it was going to be this the whole movie. And I was like, oh shit, like that's fucking cool. Cows. But then really when it ended, I was like, oh, those cows are a symbol of the entire community.
Yeah,
yes, it's so perfect. Yeah, they're like a mindless flock at the mercy of people who are smarter and more powerful than them. And then like the movie starts, whatever, it is super enthralling. You're caught up. There's this infidelity going on and you're like, who are these people? But then you get caught up in the logic of it all a little bit, the irimias of it all, because I was like, I didn't know that you're not supposed to know anything. Like, I didn't really know it was absurdist. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out like, okay, I think I missed something. Why are they giving up their plan because this guy's coming to town? Why is he talking to this captain? What is he What is he being paid for by this government official? Like, I didn't know it wasn't supposed to make sense. So I got a little distracted by that for a bit, but then I got over it very quickly once I realized, like, oh, there is no point. Like, you're not supposed to know anything.
What, do you think it's absurdist, though?
I think it's definitely absurdist. You didn't see the movie as absurdist?
Not really.
Huh.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
We'll talk.
Anyway, yeah, I'm not even a cat person, and that scene was really hard to watch. Like, really, really hard. Overall, though, I wasn't as sad or depressed as I thought I'd be.
It was worse than I thought it would be. And I knew this movie is infamous for that scene. So I knew for years.
I'm not talking about the cat. I'm talking about overall the movie.
No.
The cat scene was very upsetting. But I feel like overall, I've left movies much more depressed.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't like broken when this ended. I think because the whole movie is like, it's not going to end in a good place the whole time.
Uh-huh.
And maybe because you get to spend so much time there, it like softens the blow somehow. I think
so. I think so. And I think it's also because, like you said, there is no explicit. We don't see him use the guns that he buys.
Yeah. We don't know what they're for.
I know, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I love loose ends in a movie. I just didn't know that that's what this was for a while. But truly unlike anything I've ever seen, I think. I really don't think I've seen anything like this, nor will I see anything like this. And I think the camera is magic. Yes. And I always talk about these magic camera moments of like, by the time the shot ends, we don't even know where we began. Yeah. And this is 7 hours of that. So I was kind of in heaven. It's hard. I have like so many notes because the movie's so long and because there are so many shots that are beautiful. There aren't that many shots. There's only 172, but God, each one is like really, really special.
Yeah. Well, he makes it look easy. Sorry, I don't mean to step on you.
No, it's okay. At the start of the movie where it's that window and light suddenly comes, I was like, oh my God, like, is this magic? Is this the sun? What is this? And I realized it's just like someone turned on a light.
Yeah.
Like things like that where you didn't know that was possible. Like, I love that. And this whole movie was like that. I think I left this movie a wiser filmmaker, to be honest.
Same.
Like,
yeah, because like there's something about it where he's really breaking down the fundamentals of storytelling. Because the camera is kind of like magically inclined in this like sort of like Tarkovsky. It's very similar aesthetically to Tarkovsky. Not so much the subject matter, but there's some overlap.
I think Tarkovsky's happier.
And I think certainly with the bells, I thought of Breaking the Waves.
Oh, yes.
But like, and again, Lars von Trier is a big fan of Tarkovsky and everything. I mean, so much stems from Tarkovsky, but like, yeah, I there's a way that Béla Tarr during each chapter, especially the way he introduces somebody, where you don't quite know where you are, or who you're looking at first, and the camera slowly kind of glides around, and then you like the way that he parses it out, like this is the person they were talking about before.
Yes, I'm thinking of for example, when they've moved into the manor. And the narrator starts talking about crazy things. Like he's like, oh, there was a hunchback and he pushed him over thing. But then we see that the camera's panning over them asleep and you're like,
yes.
Oh, it's their dreams.
Yes.
Like, that was amazing.
That was incredible. I've never seen anything quite like that. That was amazing. Where he's just narrating their dreams that they're all having. And it takes like, I don't know, maybe over 5 minutes for the dreams.
I'd
maybe
say 8.
Closer to 10, yeah.
But it was exactly what you just described, where it's like, I don't know what's going on, but then the camera tells me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He always keeps you in the dark for just a second, so you can kind of like, you try to get your bearings, almost like you're trying to see in the dark, right? And then slowly your eyes adjust and you're like, oh, okay, I can make out a person there. And and he makes it look effortless. Like watching this movie made me so inspired to like go pick up a camera and make something right now because he makes it look easy.
Yeah. And it's meaningful. Like those shots, now we're talking about the camera, but that's totally fine. But like these shots have purpose. They're not just long to be long. Like the one that really pops out to me is when Mrs. Schmidt comes to the bar. It's during Spider 1. She comes to the bar And she sits down and the camera's just pushing in on her while people are talking all around her. And you're like, okay, like it's pushing in on her. Why? Why are we looking at her? Why are we hearing everyone? And then, of course, after like being on her for 5 minutes, she finally says, there's a smell in here. What's that smell?
Yeah.
And it's the spiders.
Yes.
Like it's just so...
The spiders.
Yes.
There's a lot of Bergman in this too.
So
there's
much.
I felt Dreyer.
Yeah.
Bergman, Tarkovsky.
Good list.
All the greats.
All stars.
Yeah, it is.
But I just have one last quote of mine. I mean, we've already moved on from initial thoughts.
No,
I
please.
do want to say that Béla Tarr said, and I read this interview with him, and this is a quote by him. I have to tell you, I absolutely hate the movies that I can watch at the theater.
Yeah. He did. There's a quote from him too, I read, where he rewatched this recently because it just celebrated its 25th
They flew him in. American Cinematheque flew him in very recently.
Yeah, he was just in LA, and I'm bummed I missed all those screenings.
Yeah.
I know that our friend Jonathan went to some of them. He got to see Béla Tarr. But no, in 2019, when this was restored and released and stuff for the 25th, he's like, yeah, I went back and watched it like I hadn't seen it in a long time. And he's like, legitimately, I wouldn't change a thing about that movie. And I was like, imagine that.
I can't.
Imagine making a movie that's 7.5 hours long, and 25 years later, you're like, you know what? Perfect.
Do you know what I was
That
thinking?
must feel great.
He must feel on top of the world.
Yeah.
How did he edit this movie? Because when you sit down to edit, you generally have to watch the whole movie through, or at least what you have so far. How long did that take?
You know what? I don't know that it took that long because it's all these like long takes and master shots and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I also like you saying it only took 4 months to film totally makes sense because like, and you summarize. I feel like you did a great job summarizing, but I feel like other movies we've done for the show, you've had longer summaries. Mm-hmm. And this is a 7.5 hour movie and you didn't leave anything out. But I think it's like, there's not that many signpost things that happen in the movie because so much of it is just literally sitting and observing.
Well, half of it is only one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of The White Ribbon, the Michael Haneke film that I just watched. Like I just saw it a few months ago, and it's so clear that movie is like so heavily influenced by this. I mean, it's about a small village. It's in black and white. There's a narrator that's one of the townsfolk.
Oh,
it's like very depressing.
Who do you think the narrator is? Really?
Yeah.
Hanukkah harms some animals?
A bird. So I don't care.
Wait, like
I mean,
for
you don't
real?
See, no. You just see a dead bird.
Oh, it's implied.
Like kids fuck with animals. Kids are evil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But first I want to talk about, because you thought it was strange that I called this film absurdist.
Yeah.
I think it's totally absurdist. There's no point. They're waiting around for what? What is the government? What is he doing with them? How is he exploiting them? Why? What's that letter? Who are those clerks?
I mean, I think there's a difference between absurdism and vagueness and like intentional mystery and.
But I don't think it's mystery. I think it's nothing. Like people compare it to Waiting for Godot a lot, which is totally clear.
Uh-huh.
But here, let me bring this back to the book, and let me bring this back to what I mentioned about what's in the book versus what's in the movie. What I like about the film is that everything is technically explainable. I know I called it absurdist like a minute ago, which I still think it is, but everything is technically explainable, like the mystical of it is. But that doesn't change the fact that the movie is still mystical and magical.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like
I agree, but not on the absurd front.
That's okay. We can disagree.
But no, I'm genuinely curious. Like, I want to know.
Well, like, who is he? Why do they give up everything for him? Like,
because he's so charismatic.
I mean,
his speech at the funeral is very like.
But what is he doing with the government?
He's a Christ figure.
I know, but like, what is the captain talking about? Who are those clerks? What is that letter? Like, why did he have to describe them to the captain? Why did he randomly go in a bar and say, I'm going to blow you all up?
Well, I got the impression that he was describing all of them because they were all going to be like they were going to go find all of them and arrest them or something.
I don't know.
For the girl's death.
That's
like
interesting.
The entire,
I never thought of
like
that.
The entire village is complicit.
I never thought of that. But here's the thing, like in the book, it is really magical realism, apparently.
Right, and I agree on that.
Internet
I agree
says.
on the magical realism front.
But I don't think the movie is magical. I don't think there's magical realism in the movie. Like, I think every weird mystical thing has an explanation. Like the bell. Or
well, no, not even though, because the bell sounds you're hearing ultimately sound different than just the one guy with the thing.
Right. But it is explained by that one guy.
It's almost like that guy's the seed of the sound, but then the heavens take on like a great, like amplify it or something.
Right.
Because there's no way, like physically, it does not explain the sound that you've been hearing throughout the movie. Like that one guy banging on the thing.
I guess.
Right?
I mean, I guess, but it is kind of this like explanation. It's offered as this explanation.
And the way too, no, I think that there is magical realism in the movie because in the way that the whole town just suddenly, I mean, I just said he's charismatic, which he is, but like they flip on him so quickly and they're like, yes, of course, take my year's earnings. Like, just take it. And then when they want it back, when he doesn't show up, they very quickly are persuaded, like, no, never mind. Please keep it. Please keep our money.
Right.
So like there's some sort of supernatural thing going on there. I don't think it's absurdist. I'm open to I'm so fascinated by the absurdist angle.
Well, anytime I hear Waiting for Godot, I'm like, that's absurdist. And I think this is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like the spiders. Like,
yeah.
What
magical.
are the but they don't actually cover the faces of everyone and everything. Like,
right.
We don't see them do that. We just hear the narrator or the doctor describe that. It's just this weird, that's what I mean. It's like, it's grounded in reality, which I guess is the definition of magical realism, grounded in reality, but it's not as magical as, say, like Pan's Labyrinth, which is like, here's the magic in the real world. This is more like, here's strange, weird absurdness that might have an explanation in reality, but also we're not going to give it to you.
I would say, to bring it back full circle, it's about as magical as something like Stalker.
Interesting, yes.
The girl moving the glass with her mind. And does
But
the zone have
that's
power
magic.
or does it not?
But the girl moving the glass, that's like Matilda, as
Well,
we call her.
that's the one instance
She's
in that
affectionately
film
known. I know.
of tangible
Exactly.
stuff.
So
And-
it's like we get it at the very end. You're
Right.
like, oh, the zone is powerful.
And in this film, we never get that
never
moment
get a
with the
full
glass.
confirmation. Yeah.
I get what you're
and that's
saying.
so important that he took out the girl ascending to heaven.
Right.
Because that would make it really magical realism.
Yes, yeah.
So it exists in this weird, absurd, grounded in reality, sometimes magical, but every magical thing has an explanation.
Right.
But also the bureaucracy is just so fucked up that there's no point in trying to understand it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. The movie is fascinating.
I would say, honestly, that it might be absurdist in the way that it lingers on those two clerks and the way, too, that how much time we spend, I think it's Spider 2, on the dancing.
Which,
for me, that was the longest scene in the movie.
I think that is the longest shot.
I was like, oh my God, like, we are fully still in this same shot.
Apparently, they were actually drunk when they shot that.
Good.
I know.
It's such a bizarre thing. I mean, I'm sure we'll kind of ping pong around this episode.
It's hard.
The movie, because it's...
Do you want to talk about Spider 2?
Let's talk about Spider 2 really quick, because I feel like, first of all, how exhausting for these actors.
How exhausting.
But like Mrs. Schmidt is dancing with this guy who's being very forceful and handsy, and then she'll like be into it for a second, and then she's pushing him away. Then she's into it for a second, she's looking at her husband who's like kind of passing out because he's a piece of bread.
He's got the cheese roll balancing on his head.
And it's like, that goes on for like, what, 15 minutes?
Greg, when I tell you, so my cousins and I, every time there's like a long weekend, we get together at my house, and a lot of the times
you recreate
we
this.
We get so messed up, and I don't know how. Like, we don't plan it, but it just like one thing leads to another, and we all get very drunk. And I feel like that's what we look like.
That's what you do?
I'm not kidding.
You get the
I'm exaggerating.
The accordion in.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we do absurd shit. Like, we start dancing and we just do like weird stuff. Not that weird, but like I could easily picture someone balancing something on their head, just like walking back and forth.
No, all that checks out for me. It's just like I was wondering while I was watching that, like, man, why is he holding, of all the shots in this movie, why is this shot getting so much attention?
And that one drunk guy is such a good drunk guy. Like, he is every obnoxious drunk that you've ever seen.
Yes.
The fact that he keeps saying the same goddamn shit for how fucking long?
What was the word?
The world record for the word plotting.
Yes.
It's gotta be PLODD.
And what's it? What was
It's gotta be the world
in
record
Hungarian
for in any movie. I know, you'd think we know it, right? Because we heard it so many fucking times. Plotting and plotting and plotting. And plotting and plotting and plotting.
I'm surprised no one was like, dude, shut the fuck up.
But that's what happens when someone becomes obnoxiously drunk.
No, exactly.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Another great moment, kind of similar to what we were talking about, where it's like, you don't really know where they're going with this, but then it becomes clear, is in that same chapter when they're in the storeroom. It's the bartender and Futaki, and they're eating cheese rolls.
Yeah.
And the bartender's like, look at this. He's like, they ruin everything. And when he starts whispering, he's like, when they see that I'm looking, then it's like hard to catch them. They like hide.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, who the fuck is he talking
spiders.
about? And then he says those spiders.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I thought he was talking about the people.
I kind of see your absurdist claim now.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And then what? And then Futaki's just like, yeah, you know, like the real danger's in the ground. Like we're all going to become worms. Like he just says that.
There's this fascination with the ground. There's literally a line. I don't remember if it's in that chapter or another, but someone asks Mrs. Schmidt, they're like, what's that smell?
It's Spider 1 when she's like, what's that smell? Like the shot I was talking about that it pushes in on her for so long, and finally she says,
yeah,
what's that
okay,
smell?
it is. And she said, it's
she
the earth.
She bends down. She goes, it's the earth.
Yeah. Oh my God. That conjures up so much. It conjures up a whole ocean of thoughts and ideas and feelings.
Yeah.
Like, it's the earth.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
And then, so just before we talk about that a little more, I want to finish up the Spider 2 section by talking about who the hell is Hallex? Who is this headmaster who wants to tango with Mrs. Schmidt, who tells her, I'm going to take you away from here?
Yeah.
Who is this man?
You into him?
Where did he come from?
With his mustache.
Oh, I tango with him.
Yeah. He's like he's got Tucci vibes.
Who is he? And it's just so interesting because the name of the chapter is Satan's Tango.
Yeah.
He's not Satan. He's not evil. And we never know what happens to him. I mean, we never know what happens to any of them.
Well, he doesn't go with them. The
But
people
he
that don't
sends
go
them-
to the mansion.
No, he goes with them.
Oh, he does.
He does go with them. He sends everyone to the towns. Futaki says, you know what, man, I'm good. I'm going to leave. And then the headmaster's the only one left in the truck.
Oh, you're right. You're right. You don't know what happens to him.
So I feel like they killed him.
Oh, God. Well,
Anyway.
we can literally only speculate about what happens there.
But what I love is when they start tangoing, the drunk guy comes and he's like, tango is my life. Tango.
Oh, yeah.
Tango is my life.
You related big time.
Yeah. No, you know who I did relate to? The doctor who was like, oh, I guess I have to leave the house.
All for some palinka.
Oh, and then the shot of them sharing the cheese roll of the two ends.
I've had palinka.
The fruit brandy.
So it is made in Hungary in like the way that moonshine is made here, like in a bathtub. Mm-hmm. There's this whole process. A friend of mine, we went over her house for dinner and she had palinka from Hungary.
Wow.
And she served it to us.
Was it good?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Is it strong?
Yeah, it's strong.
Wow.
But it's delicious. But yeah, it is a magical drink.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
What kind of fruits?
God, I don't remember. It's just delicious. I don't know.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, we touched a little bit about talking about like the whole waiting for Godot and absurdism, and like they're waiting for something, they're waiting for the savior, they're waiting for something to happen to them.
Right.
I think that's like inseparable from the runtime, and the way that Jeanne Dielman is about like mundane everyday chores in life, and that's why that movie's 4 hours, and like this movie is 7.5 hours.
Because there's so many characters.
Waiting, yeah, and because they're waiting for something to happen to them.
Yeah,
that never happens to them.
Yeah. I got major cult vibes. What was the Nexium guy? What was his name? I got total vibes of with Irimas in this.
To who?
The Nexium, Keith Raniere.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it just felt in terms of like he has all the makings of a cult leader.
Oh, he is a cult leader.
And I think it goes too in showing like religions are cults, right?
Yeah.
Like he's the Christ figure of the movie. He is this smooth talking guy. And it's funny because the way that they build him up, he almost seems mythical. And it's like, is he dead? Is he not dead? Has he come back from the dead?
Yeah, that's also part of like the weird, absurd, magical stuff going on.
And then the first time you see Irimas is when he's walking, that iconic shot of him and
the wind.
His friend, and they're walking. Patrinka, that sounds right. It's a shot from behind them, and they're just walking, and the wind is. And this happens several times when you see him walking, and almost in a Christ-like way, as if he's parting the sea, but he's parting all the trash and leaves in this walkway. But you notice, and maybe this was intentional at the time. I thought, oh, they missed this, but like. They pass trees and stuff. None of the leaves are blowing in the trees. Like the trees are still.
I didn't even.
The only thing it's like they just walked behind him with a couple leaf blowers.
I didn't even notice.
But also maybe if they are going for this Christ-like thing, then like maybe it's cool that the trees aren't blowing.
Yeah. Like you said, it is engrossing because I think Futaki very early on like hits on the themes. Like he definitely does in the first scene. Like he's talking about like. Oh, I'm going to collect my share and then I'm going to leave tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Latest tomorrow. Like he's already making excuses. And like he says, I'm sure something will happen today because he hears those bells. He says something to Schmidt. He says to Schmidt, like, everything's going to change. You'll see. Like he has so much faith in Irimas at the start.
Yeah.
Right when the movie starts. And then it's so tragic because he's the one to leave. Right at the end, he's the one who says, you know what, just give me my money. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Because he knows. I think he's, in a way, he might be the main character, like the main villager.
Yeah.
He looks like Sean Bean.
He kind of does. And he's the first one that we like really relate to.
Yeah, of course.
In the very beginning.
And even, I love the poetry at the end of every section.
Oh, God.
And like, not the poetry, but like the narration.
Yeah. Honestly, Tarkovsky-esque.
It's so Tarkovsky-esque. The end of the first one, after Schmidt and Futaki have decided they're not going to run away, it's so beautiful. It says, the relentless rain blended Schmidt's swearing with Futaki's encouraging words as he repeated, never mind, old man, you'll see, we'll have a great life.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And, you know, I think the film is probably, I think it's a critique of communism.
Yes.
Because of the inherent bad nature of human beings. I think it's saying, because of that, communism will never work because look how horrible people are. They can't really be part of a community.
Yeah.
And the weak ones are going to be exploited. So, I think it's kind of perfect.
This is all in the wake of the fall of communism.
Exactly. And he was like really hunted down by the government, Béla Tarr. He had to move. It's just great. And even Irimas, when he's looking at the clock, he says like, because there's two clocks, right? And he says, the other measures not so much time, but the eternal reality of the exploited. We are to it like twigs to the rain.
Yeah.
And he goes, we're helpless.
Tears and Rain from Blade Runner.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, I think too, I was just thinking about how nihilistic this movie is. Like more so than most movies I've seen because literally nothing turns out well. And even the one thing in the movie that seems good or genuine or pure is the bells, and what the bells turn out to be is this crazy guy. And it's like literally nothing is going to end up well for any of these people except maybe the two clerks who go home to their wives for dinner.
How was your day, darling?
Yeah.
I loved that.
Is the village cursed?
He shuts himself in the dark. Like, is he literally just...
That was so bleak.
That was really bleak. That was scary.
Like the movie is plunging you into this darkness.
And I love that because I've always thought to myself, like, I think it was when I was watching The Beguiled recently, because she was all about, like, I'm only going to use candles. And it's going to be dark. Like, the movie is dark. You can barely see a lot of the scenes. But I'm okay with it. And then in this movie, but then I thought to myself, I'm like, why not go further? Why not have it be completely black until someone turns on the light? And then in this movie, like at the end, it's completely dark, but the scene is still rolling. Camera's still rolling.
Yeah.
But it's completely dark. I mean, there's like one little ray of light.
There's a few shots in this movie that get completely dark.
I love it so much. But I think maybe now is a good time to talk about the doctor.
Yes.
Let's talk about him. So I think he is fascinating.
He's a very accomplished actor too. His name is escaping me right now, but he's been in a lot of stuff.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Peter Burling. So yeah, he's in everything from like A Gary the Wrath of God and Fitzcarraldo to like Gangs of New York. So he's worked with Herzog and Scorsese and everyone in between. He's a super accomplished actor. Just died a few years ago, actually.
So his chapter is called To Know Something.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so interesting and fascinating that the hermit, the antisocial one, the one that seems like he's really misanthropic, is the most invested in a way in all of their lives. He has a journal on each of these people. And it makes you think of like artists.
Right,
like a lot of artists are like that. Like they just want to be alone and they just want to write and work on their stuff. I'm guilty of this. I mean, I don't think I'm a misanthrope, but like those are actually the people who are most fascinated with humanity. And I think that that's really interesting.
I thought too, it's kind of with him, it was out of circumstance too. It's not, I don't know that he started off so interested in the town. It's more just like health issues, like forced him to kind of be like immobile.
That's true.
And he's like, well, I can look out the window and I can, yeah, I guess so.
No, it is. I never thought about that. It kind of reminds me of like Three Colors Red.
Oh yes,
and the
great
judge
movie.
in that,
He's
who's
so
like
good.
Really antisocial, but really he's stalking people.
Yeah, fantastic.
Totally reminds me of that.
Totally. I love that we sit with it. Like I love.
It's an hour that we just sit with him.
It's an incredible chapter. I think it's one of the most memorable chapters in the film.
I think so too.
You get so much time with him in his apartment. You see what his toilet looks like.
Yeah, no flush.
Well. I don't think because he throws some water in there from a bucket.
You know, it's so funny. It's really easy to forget that this movie is not from like the 60s.
Yes,
50s.
exactly.
Like, this is set in the 90s, made in the 90s, but they're using wash basins.
Yeah.
And there's a horse-drawn carriage.
No, of course. Yeah. No, I kept reminding myself, and just the way it's filmed, because it evokes Tarkovsky and stuff, it just kind of feels timeless. Like, it feels like of another time.
For sure.
But, well, this was technically before you were born. I was alive.
Like a few months.
I was alive and well, and enjoying this movie in the theater on its initial theatrical run. But no, I love, and it's just like when we follow him out of his odyssey out of the house.
How long it takes him
like
to
with
leave.
the prostitutes, and then like getting the palinka, and then like the girl, and then like collapsing several times.
Yeah,
where you're like, oh, he's died, and then it's like. 5 minutes later, he gets back up.
I'm worried about this man.
And then he collapses again.
He grunts so much. He's so unhealthy.
Yeah.
He really does not take care of himself.
No, he's killing himself. He's drinking himself to death. He's not. Yeah, he's not.
Do you know in Toy Story, in the first Toy Story, when Buzz is watching Sid like play and like destroy his sister's toys? And he's like, doctor.
That's how you felt?
And Buzz is like, I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? That's like one of my favorite lines of all time. That's all I was thinking about while watching this man.
Yeah, how the fuck? Well, he could be a doctor of...
philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that
Which
he's a medical doctor. Yeah, because he's never called upon to do any doctorly stuff.
But I think he is actually. I know you think it. You have a more pessimistic view. It's like he's bored. He has nothing else to do. That's why he cares about these people's lives. I don't think it's like that, because I think that he like sits with those prostitutes. He like talks to them. When the little girl passes by him, he yells at her, but then he feels bad and he says, "I'm not going to hurt you." He tries to follow her. I think he's kind of a good guy, honestly. He misses the woman who comes, he's mean to her, the woman who comes and takes care of him, but he misses her so much. He keeps talking about her. She didn't show up today.
Well, he relies on her.
Didn't show up.
That's why.
No, I think he's sad.
Well, yeah, because he has no contact now with that world. Like, because I don't think anyone really stops to see him besides that woman.
But I think he personally is sad that he lost this person that was in his life.
Yeah, maybe.
I see him like that. See, this is the beauty of movies like this.
It's true.
We can each have our own opinions.
I don't know why he gave me an Erland Joseph's vibe, but I think just a little bit in the face.
I didn't see it. But now that you mention it, kind of.
Right?
Yeah. You know what else I love about this movie? Like, he's not the only one that gets moments of poetry. Like, a lot of the townspeople have moments too. There's the guy with his coat talking about the inner rain inside of him. It's during Spider 1. It's so good.
Yes, that was
incredible. And he's talking about how the coat is all rough now and stiff and there's no flexibility and this rain gets in him, but he has an inner rain that's soaking his organs.
Yes.
That was incredible. There's him. There's, of course, like we mentioned, the stuff about the spiders in the stock room, the stuff about the spiders and like being in the ground, that all the stuff Futaki says. So I do like that. Like, it's not just the doctor. They're not as stupid as people make them seem like they are.
No. They're just a people of an old world.
Which is, of course, so sad at the end when you're reading that letter about them and you're like, everything we've just watched for 7 hours is being belittled and like laughed at.
Yeah.
Which is so sad.
I know. That's true. I didn't think about it that way. That's really interesting. It is all being belittled in an offhand way of like, change it. So she's just disgusting, not disgusting and fat or something.
Yeah.
Or she's unsightly.
Yeah. And of course, Irimias, this messiah figure, is the one talking shit about them.
Yeah, exactly. The one person that was supposed to save them.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the little girl?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Unraveling. That's this chapter. It's called Unraveling.
Jesus Christ.
Rightfully named. So I think that this was something else that was clear in the book that I read. I read this like very detailed summary online, not the whole thing, but that was her money that her brother buried. It was all her life savings. And he told her like, I'm going to plant a tree and it's going to grow and you're going to have a lot of money. And then he took it. So like, I think that's what set her off. More than just being lied to and tricked. Like maybe she had a few pennies in there. And
she already killed the cat before that happened.
She killed the cat before that happened. Yeah. I know she did, but like she didn't kill herself. Also, apparently in the book, there's something very specific about she believed that rat poison sends people to heaven.
Interesting. Because where she's living in such a hell that she just needs to get out, and the only way out is by killing herself and going to heaven.
Also, we find out in another chapter that she was institutionalized.
You find out in the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Chapter in the movie. Mm-hmm. And her dad killed himself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she has a fucked up life.
She has a fucked up life.
And she's imitating her parents. When she's torturing the cat, she's saying, like, you soiled your pants. And at first I was like, what the fuck? And then, like, it kind of clicked in my mind.
Yeah.
I think she's imitating them, and she is so weak in the real world that she feels the need to assert her dominance over someone weaker than her, and the only person weaker than her is the cat.
Exactly.
And it's so sad.
No, that's exactly
really,
it.
Really sad.
I really wish he could have found another way to show that, though, other than the cat. Especially when she's, like, shoving its head in the milk and, like...
It's when the cat's ears are back, like you mentioned, which is really sad.
Yeah. No, I'm like really not okay with that whole sequence. That cat, it's lazy. It's lazy on his part. Like he should be ashamed of himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
She watches the dance from the window.
Yes.
Like all of us.
Like us all.
Yeah. And then I love, of course, the scene in Spider when we're inside the bar and there's a shot of her looking in. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Do you have a favorite character?
That's a really interesting question. My first thought that comes to my mind is no. What about you?
No.
I don't think so.
Same.
Maybe the cat.
Is it her cat?
I think so.
Okay.
It's just sad because she's like petting it a minute before.
It's purring, yeah.
It's purring.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, no, I get it. And that's like a common thing that's how you know a kid is going to grow up to be a serial killer is if they like kill animals.
Well, it's good she killed herself then.
Yeah, because she would have gone on to kill other people.
Jesus.
Honestly, that whole segment, that chapter with the cat, I was like, why? Like, I get, like, this town is so horrible. Like, I get it. But when she killed herself and like holding the cat, and when she's like walking around with the cat's limp body for so long, and she kills herself and she's like holding the cat, I was like, it kind of like did a full picture thing for me. I was like, okay, actually,
for sure.
All right, that was actually really beautiful.
And it's really sad
chapter.
that she like smooths her dress. Like she eats the poison so nonchalantly, and then she smooths her dress and hair.
Yeah,
she's like a child, and she knows, and she like lays down.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the beautiful narration about how
everything's
she
still.
Says something, everything's still. She's never felt so peaceful. She knows that angels like angels are looking out for her and they're okay with this. Because I think of that thing in the book where she's like, rat poison sends people to heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she didn't want, in the book, she didn't want to go without her cat. But of course, she does torture the cat. So it's like so interesting. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. I feel like too, in a way, this movie almost owes a debt also to Bresson in like the ritualness of it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think so. It's all of these shots of, I mean, this isn't really Bresson, but like, I'm sure he would have appreciated the cinematography of it all. But I was going to say, there's all these shots, like I said, where you like start on one thing and then you end up somewhere completely different. And I think it's like what you said about it being very novelistic. Like even at the start, it was like Schmidt is taking a piss and then the camera moves back and we land on a full profile of Futaki. But
yeah, we
haven't cut. Like we started in a wide and now we're in a close.
Yeah.
And how did you do that?
Magic.
What lens were you using? I'm confused.
Yeah.
There's an amazing one when they're leaving town. And again, it's like a medium shot. They're lugging the cart wide. It's a wide.
Yeah.
And then it turns into close-ups of them drinking from the bottle. But it's all one shot. And I'm like, how?
Lots of rehearsals.
But I don't know. It's really crazy. The doctor when he's in the barn talking to the prostitutes, and then he goes downstairs, and the camera goes down in that hole. It's fantastic.
It really is. Yeah, you watch him leave because it all happens in real time.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's a great one of like in the bar. It's when the shot of Mrs. Schmidt starts. It's like the bartender is talking, and then he turns. He's cleaning his nails, and then the camera turns, and she's there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what?
The movie has a way, like all good slow cinema does, the movie has a way of breaking you down in like the best way of like, you're with a shot and you're like, this is the shot they chose? Okay. And then like a minute goes by and a minute and a half goes by and 2 minutes go by. And then suddenly this shot means everything. I am thinking about a shot when they were like leaving the village going towards like the mansion and just like how much purpose it gets. And then as they get closer to the house and like it just you get it all.
Of course.
It's just so immersive.
Yeah.
It's so immersive. This has to be one of the most immersive movies I've ever seen.
For sure. And the end of the night for Spider 2 when the accordion player sits down and the camera kind of moves behind him and then we land on the freaking spider webs.
Yeah, I love that shot.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Also, there's no dolly tracks. Like there's so many shots of the first time I noticed it was The Office. When they're walking, it's like I thought like, okay, maybe it's on a dolly, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But then when they come back out and then now we're in front of them, there's no dolly tracks. So it's like all handheld.
Yeah, like Steadicam or something.
Is there Steadicam back then?
Oh yeah, from like the 70s.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You learn something new every day.
If you remember in our Shining episode, which was made in 1980.
Oh. Yeah, I forgot.
No, I don't know for sure that it's Steadicam because it actually didn't really have a Steadicam look to it. Well,
so maybe it was on like a cart that was
maybe.
Jeez. The craziest one is the bar. So it's like it's during one of those weird ones. There's a few weird chapters where it's like the view from the front, the view from the back, and we're in the bar, but we're seeing the speech. It's right before they all leave. We're seeing the speech from the bar, and then the camera's pulling back, and then it ends up to be the little girl's mom and the bartender in the bar because they're the ones that don't go.
Yeah.
But there's nothing on the ground. Like we're seeing the ground.
Well, they could pick up the track as they go too. But yeah.
I don't think. Can you like that?
I think so.
That quick? You're seeing the floor the whole time.
Well, it depends on the lens he uses too, you know, like how long the lens is and
I don't know
where the frame is. No, I don't know. It looks incredible. You know what?
No
I think he literally
explanations.
conjured up some magic to shoot some of this.
I think he attended Hogwarts for several years and he's a wizard.
It really does have that feel though.
Yeah.
It really does.
The owl.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the owl. That was freaky.
What do you think the owl was?
I don't know. That's during the perspective as seen from the front.
It's when they're at the mansion.
When they're at the manor, yeah. First of all, I love when they arrive there and there's those like circular shots.
Yes, with the music.
The montage, yeah. It's
the music,
incredible.
and the music was kind of like that segment, especially the music did not sound like the rest of the movie. It was almost like a little psychedelic, a little like rock. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And the circling while they're looking through the house almost turns into like a gothic, like it turns into like a Dario Argento movie.
So I was sitting on my couch, which is maybe 8 feet from my TV.
That's too far.
That's far. It's really far, actually.
How big is your TV?
I don't know. It's one of those like Samsungs. It's big. It's far. Actually, I want to measure it. So I couldn't see very well.
Yeah.
So I was like, when the owl starts, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? Like, I was so confused. I thought like goblins had entered the movie. I thought it was like a mythical creature. I couldn't tell what it was. My eyesight's not that great either. And I was like, holy shit.
You didn't have your glasses on?
What is that? No, I did, but
okay.
I don't know. I'm still blind. But
it sounds like the brightness setting on your TV was too low.
it's on the highest. I don't understand.
Well, it's not supposed to be on the highest.
Why not?
Because that's too much.
But the lights were off.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely too much. Wait, your
Really?
TV was on max brightness. It was dark out, and you couldn't see that it was an owl?
I said far.
Actually, you know what?
It starts
I remember now.
far.
It is kind of, you just see eyes. You know what? You're totally right. You're right.
I thought it was creepy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. I literally went and stood in front of my TV to see that it was an owl. And you're hearing them talk, like you're hearing like, oh, quiet, my husband's trying to sleep. And it didn't click to me that was the villagers. Like I thought it was like ghosts watching them. I'm not kidding.
So you like,
I'm not
you were
kidding.
running with, you wanted this to go to like.
I did.
Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah, the owl freaked me out.
Just wait till you see Twin Peaks. Owls will take on a whole new.
Owls are evil.
The owls are not what they
seem.
seem.
I like them.
Are they? Did they get a pass from you?
Only because of Harry Potter.
Oh.
That's the only reason I like them. But
I see.
no, I grew up like everyone around me told me like owls are evil.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a whole thing in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. I love the religious lady sneaking a drink in that segment.
Oh, yeah.
They drink a lot.
Of course.
It made me really want like a hefty beer while watching this.
A nice mead.
Something like that.
Even though there's not that much beer drunk in this movie. It's all like palinka.
It's palinka.
Everyone
They
would-
also ordered like the one guy's like, give me a liter.
Oh, that's true. A liter of palinka.
Oh, possible.
No, actually, it's Hawaiian fruit punch. I know for a fact, actually.
Yeah, so I very much wanted to do that.
Well, you still can.
I mean,
You can drink. You can go home and drink yourself to sleep tonight. Like you can make that happen.
people are gonna think I'm an alcoholic after this episode.
And put on
every long weekend I get smashed. Apparently,
You should
which
go
is
home,
Not true.
open a drink, and play the soundtrack to this movie, and play the bells chiming, and just turn off all the lights in your room. That, you know what? That actually sounds like a good time. I might do that. I would love to just turn off all the lights and play the bells and get some palinka and feel immersed AF.
I have mulberry brandy at home.
That might do.
I mean,
Because you can't get palinka easily.
Yeah.
You have to like know somebody. Here, at least, you have to know somebody.
wow. I
Yeah.
really want to try it.
Yeah, because my friend lived over there.
Wow. Did they like it?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think Budapest is in the country that this takes place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I wonder too, for how rainy it is. Jesus Christ! Like it's the kind of place
Oh my
that's so
God.
rainy that literally nothing can grow. It's just mud.
Yeah.
Because you never really see any like crops,
You're right.
and all the trees are like kind of dead and like.
I love the sound of the mud sloshing when they're walking away. After like, I think it's like the Heavenly Vision episode before they reach the ruins. They're walking in the mud for like probably like 4 minutes, and the sloshing noise is so great.
We love a good sloshing noise here.
But I love it because the volume in that scene doesn't change, even though they're walking away from us. The volume remains the same.
Yes.
Of both the slosh and the conversation.
Everything
which I really like.
is Foleyed in 80 yard. I could tell.
Yeah.
But you know what? It kind of gave it like it had a nice effect because everything was so amplified. Every little sound and stuff and voices were so crisp and clear. So I actually kind of think the ADR and fulling stuff like really worked for me in this movie.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, shit.
I don't know. Did we do enough?
I mean, can you do enough? Unless we did a 7.5 hour episode, which I'm sure people don't want to listen to. I'm curious. Okay, let's do initial thoughts part 2, just because this is such a beast of a movie. Go first. Just your continuing thoughts. Big picture.
Big picture is I want to watch it again. That's my big picture.
That's high praise.
I want to watch it again in one. I mean, I kind of said this at the beginning, but now I really want to watch it again in one sitting. And also, yeah, like I think every adaptation should look at this movie before they decide to do an adaptation.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I mean, not that it has to be this movie. I just think that this is such an interesting entry, if you will, in the world of adaptation.
Because it's literal for the most part.
Yeah. But also utilizing the tools of cinema so well. It's really the best of both worlds, and you don't really get that.
Yes, but even, we did our Midnight Cowboy episode a few months ago.
That's great. The Shining's great.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's so much to be said for the adaptation that kind of takes the book and like only focuses on a part of it or changes it completely or whatever.
But this is unique for the purposes of like, yeah, what if you don't change a thing?
So Jackie, David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Discovery, heard you. That's why he's readapting the Harry Potter books as a miniseries, and he's just going to do it beat for beat. Because you know what?
That's not what I mean.
He's a big Sátántangó fan, and he just wants to do that to Harry Potter.
That's not what I mean. I just mean if you're thinking of adapting something and you're wondering how much of the book to use, here is a great example where they use everything from the book.
Yeah, use the whole book.
That's all I'm saying.
Don't waste anything. No scraps here.
But what a special movie.
Yeah.
What's your initial thoughts part 2? I agree.
I think you summed it up. What a special movie. Yeah, I haven't seen anything quite like it. Again, while I've seen enough of the films that predate this to see the Dreyer and the Tarkovsky and the Bergman.
After it that I think are White Ribbon.
Exactly. No. Well, yeah, I haven't seen that one, but yeah, it's like I see where it's drawing inspiration from. So it doesn't feel necessarily like singular in the way that some of Tarkovsky's like earlier stuff felt like, or like even Stalker, where like you're like, this hadn't really been done at that point. Like nothing in Sátántangó feels like new.
But it's the experience of it's the 7 hours.
No,
it's
exactly.
7 hours and 20 minutes.
But the telling of the story, the way that he tells it, the way that this whole thing unravels is uniquely Tarr. Mm-hmm. And I think
Lydia Tarr?
Yes, my favorite film of 2022. But no, I mean, again, he makes it his own. He's drawing upon the masters. He makes it his own, and it's a singular experience. And I think, I mean, the only other time I've had experiences like this movie that have been comparable is like a TV miniseries or something. And even then, it's like hard to. The whole reason I don't really watch TV is because it's hard to maintain the level of quality throughout. And I think this movie, obviously, for 7.5 hours, does.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. I'm also looking forward to seeing this again in like 5 years or something. Hopefully in a theater.
Yeah.
We'll wait for it to come to a rep screening in LA. Mm-hmm. But yes, this is monumental. That's truly something special. Like, does it come close to my beloved Fanny and Alexander? I don't know. Maybe in its own way. Yes, it does.
Yeah, no, it's different.
Just in terms of telling these vast, sprawling stories over like hours and hours and hours.
That's true.
Sight and sound.
Yes.
What's your favorite sight from the movie?
What a challenge. I think I'm going to go with, it's actually during the first chapter. It is when Schmidt and Futaki have decided that they're going to steal everyone's money and run away. And it's a shot that starts, it's so long. And I think it's because it's so long and it's done so well and every part is perfect. it starts from like each of their faces and then it moves down to the table to the money being counted to Mrs. Schmidt coming over to shine the flashlight. She like hugs Schmidt from the back, is shining a flashlight. There's a knock at the door. She goes and sends a woman away and comes back all in one shot.
Yep.
And it's incredible.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's really, yeah.
Nice.
What's yours?
Mine, so I had two here. One was the owl.
Creepy.
But I'm going to go with Eremias,
yeah.
transfixed by the fog at that the ruins,
great.
and him on his knees.
With the fog.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Maud.
It's incredible. Another runner-up for me, which is related to my sound, are those freaking horses.
Oh, yeah, of course. A good clip-clop.
So that's my favorite sound, is the sound of the horses.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's your favorite from the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Should
that's
we play
my
it?
weakness.
Let's play it.
Yeah. So crisp. It's when it's on pavement.
Yeah.
It's so nice. I know it was hard. Sound was hard. I also really like the sloshing of the mud.
It's good.
I like a lot of lines. I almost went with a line.
Yeah.
But that was the winner. I also love the sight of the horses running. And of course they've escaped the slaughterhouse. Of course they have. Of course,
yeah.
I thought it was beautiful.
Cool. Mine is a little obvious, but it was the clear standout for me. It's the bells.
Oh.
It's the chimes.
Which ones?
Well, they sound the same. From the beginning and the end, it sounds the same. Here's a little clip. Again, I'm getting Breaking the Waves.
Amazing.
No, and the way I thought it was part of the soundtrack at first. I was like, oh, this is like the music. And then I was like, oh no, it's like, he's like hearing it.
Yeah.
He's hearing these phantom bells.
And I love when Mrs. Schmidt is sitting, her introduction is she goes and sits at that table and he says, I heard bells. And she goes, what? Here? And she turns around and that's the first time we see her.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that.
It's so good. Well, we would normally do our Pauline Kael segment here, but of course she retired a year before this movie came out, so we do not have Pauline, but we do have the wonderful people from Letterboxd Incorporated. I have a 5-star review here that just says about 12 minutes too long.
That's funny. This one's funny. It must have been after screening. 5.5 stars. Paul Giamatti was one of the only goats who never left, except during intermissions, and also stayed through every second of the credits. I love Paul Giamatti. I love him.
I have a 2.5-star review that says, I just watched a 7-hour-long Hungarian black and white film, which makes me so cult and smart. It's called Sátántangó. You probably don't know it. It's part of what we true cinephiles call auteur cinema. I just posted my 135 lines long review in Letterboxd. Would you please give me some fucking attention?
What? That's funny. Okay, this one's 5 stars and it's actually written really well. A travelogue of purgatory at the end of history with characters set adrift with only the manipulations of an eerily hypnotic cult-like figure to guide them. After 7 arduous hours, the punchline hits. Said absentee ruler is nothing but a rat for the cops, who no longer have a government to spy for, but continue collecting and organizing dirt on otherwise completely abandoned citizens out of sheer mechanical memory. All that's left is the pain you can inflict on yourself and others to even feel alive.
Wow.
Kudos to whoever wrote this.
5 stars says, wow, what a film. I was very intimidated by this film because of, well, its long ass runtime. But it really wasn't that bad to get through. I had the same experience with this film as I did with Tarr's The Turin Horse, that being feeling hypnotized through the whole duration of the film and finding myself not being bothered at all by how slow the pacing was. I was completely immersed through all 7 hours of this film.
Nice. Half a star. What a painful experience. Tango guy was funny though.
True.
Is that a wrap? Oh, I have one more. This person just hearted it. When will people ever learn not to trust white dudes with dumb haircuts who wear fedoras?
So true.
Pretty good.
Dear God. Well, that is going to wrap up Sátántangó. Our first
can't believe we did
Béla
it.
Tarr.
I feel really good about myself. In fact, I feel like the person that Letterboxd person was making fun of.
Exactly. Me too.
And I'm not ashamed. You know what? I dedicated 7.5 hours, almost 7.5. Thank you all for watching along on Instagram as I live tweeted my experience. I didn't tweet because I don't tweet. But yeah.
Yeah. And if you haven't already, pick up the great Blu-ray of this film by Arbalos on their shop. We have the link in the description, and also you can use our promo code SeenHeard for 15% off.
Thanks again to Arbalos.
Yeah, we love those guys. Well, this is the beginning of a break. So
I thought you were gonna say the beginning of the end.
No. Jackie, we're just getting started.
Much, I know. We literally have so many movies to watch.
Yeah. Because even though we're getting closer to the end of the 2012 100 list, there's the 2022 and there's the top 250 and there's the 250. So we're truly just getting started. So don't worry, we will be back. But this episode does signal the beginning of a nice break for us. Maybe I'll rewatch Twin Peaks. I don't know.
I'm going on a trip, and I think I'll watch Twin Peaks on a very long plane ride.
Do it.
There and back.
Do it.
Is it bad to watch it on a plane, though?
No, I mean, it's a TV show. I mean, It looks beautiful, but like everyone saw it on small TVs back in the day. So, yes, enjoy. I was going to say enjoy our break, but we're going to enjoy the break. Enjoy our backlog.
Yeah, keep up with us on Instagram, please.
Yeah. And we might have a surprise here and there. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in a month or two at the most.
I don't know.
We're going to take as long as a break as it feels like when we feel rested. When we feel like fully rested, we'll return.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we bid you adieu.
It's like the end of each Bond movie. James Bond will return.
Exactly. That's us.
Diamonds Are Forever, whatever. We'll return. So,
and on that note,
wishing everyone the best, month or two here ahead. And stay tuned because we have some stuff coming up, which we can't tell you about now, but we'll be back. Until next time.
Sounds good to me.
I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie. Oh.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Special thanks to the patrons at our highest tier, John Pennington and Cynthia Fordwell. Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, you can find us on email at hello@seenandheardpod.com or on Instagram @seenandheardpod.